Alright, this video is on wrist taping and wrist injuries. This one is going to be for a wrist sprain. Our hypothetical situation that we've got a 25-year-old female who injured her wrist while playing soccer. She was changing direction when she tripped and fell, and she landed on her outstretched arm, specifically bearing her weight on her entire weight, on her hyperextended wrist. So coming down on that wrist, and that's how she sprained it. I'm going to go ahead and tape her wrist while I'm talking about treatments, and then I'll get into some rehab exercises. So for treatments, you could, of course, always do RICE, so rest, ice, compress, and elevate. And then you can always take analgesics for, as needed if you needed it for pain. Splinting, and then taping, of course, another option. And then of course hand exercises once you are in a place where that's comfortable and safe for your wrist. Okay, so for the taping, I'm going to go ahead and use two anchors, one on the bottom, one on top. So down here. I'm going to go ahead and do one more around the wrist on the skin, just barely, because or else it'll slide. And then a second anchor up on the top, next to the fingers. And then the next strips are going to be crisscross. Spread your fingers, keep them spread. From the anchor here down to this anchor. Same thing going the other direction. I'm going to do that 2 more times. And then I'm going to do 4 more strips, but these ones are going to be more of a figure 8 crisscross. It's a little bit longer. I'm going to go here, here, around the back. And I'm going to just keep going. Really. Then I've got 3 more here. And that last one I'm going to go ahead and wave, but you get the picture on the wrist taping. And now I'm going to get into some exercises. The first one I have, we're only supposed to be really giving one, but I've got 2. I don't have any weights on me right now, so I'm going to use one of my kids' toys just to kind of get a point across on how the exercise is done. It's used with a hammer weight. So you'll hold, so pretend this is just a stick, and then this would be a weight on top of it. So you would hold it here. And what you do is you just pronate and supinate your hand. So you're just turning your hand like this, and you're strengthening the muscles in the wrist. Just twist, like you're opening a door. And then, of course, you can add more weight. And then another way to make it harder is if you have a longer pole that is connected to, you can always extend the pole in your hand to make it farther out. And that, of course, extends the moment arm, so you need more torque to be able to lift it. And that's, of course, a progression for that. Alright, so for the wrist rolls, I don't have one of those either, at least not on me right at the moment. So instead of trying to come up with like a rope or a towel or whatever in my house, I'm just going to go ahead and play a quick clip here, and I'll explain it to you just so you guys get a better idea. Alright, so standing up straight, you'll put your arms right out in front of you, parallel with the ground. As you hold the wrist roller, you will turn your wrists to where you can raise the weight up until it gets up to the bar, and then you'll slowly release it, alternating wrists back down to the ground. And really quick, I forgot to do the sets and the frequency and reps. So for those pronate and supinate motions with the hammer weight, you'd want to do 3 sets, probably 5 pronate and 5 supinate, once a day, maybe 3 to 4 times a week. If you're feeling good, you could always bump it up a few more sets, or maybe add a day to the week, or however you want to do it. And same goes for the wrist rolls.